What's the craziest thing you've seen someone do on a work computer? My former boss was caught multiple times watching porn at work, and after the 5th or 6th incident they fired him. I helped clean out his office, and there were printouts of porn pics stuffed everywhere in his file cabinet, and the seat of his computer chair and other fabric surfaces like his mouse pad and the wrist pad thingy in front of his keyboard were suspiciously, crusty. The crazy thing is, that office had windows that anybody in the office could see through and no blinds. I guess he just waited until everybody else had gone home for the day. That was me. I worked late night at a hotel doing accounting. I was taking a break while the printers were working and went to Facebook. On some page about my city I saw a user talk about a revolutionary steam cleaning process recently developed from Cleveland, Ohio. So without thinking, I legit 100% went to Google and typed in Cleveland steamer and searched. Immediately I knew what I had done, but it was too late. I clocked out at 7 and by 9 I was being called back to work to talk about some things that had happened last night. Back in the days when film was the normal way of taking pictures, a guy brought a bunch of snapshots into the office to scan. Snapshots of his pornographic escapades with 2 bigger ladies. All 3 of them had foot fetishes, so there was a foot version of fisting. There was a tiny PP. There was a lot. He scanned them on a workgroup scanner, transferred them to his desktop via file server, and then from there to floppies or CD. But then he left the scans on the file server, where I found them, and had to report them to HR. Okay, it might have actually been me. In an old job, I got promoted and ended up sitting in the main office room, my desk being the closest to the company owner. If I had lunch at my desk, I'd pull up the old website MaxGIF, which, if you're unfamiliar, was just a full-screen website that showed you random GIFs from Imgur, I think. Anyway, sat down for lunch one day, chatting with the owner, boot up MaxGIF. First GIF was a full-screen ejaculating penis. He eventually saw the funny side, but it did take a little explaining. I had a coworker who had a photo of Hitler doing a speech as a background. I think they also printed off a bunch of flyers spouting off about Jews. The only that was burned into my brain was about circumcision. Don't hate the flyer, hate the baby penis vampire. For some reason, that sentence will always have a spot in my brain. Alternatively, when in high school, we had a kid who would sit at the back of the class, go on to Newgrounds, and whack off to hentai as well. But when I say a bunch, I mean literally thousands. Oh boy, story time. I worked at this manufacturing company for a while doing quotes. One of the VPs was married to the owner's daughter, so he basically had complete immunity. He would pretty regularly watch porn, but the weirdest part was when the owner's granddaughter would come into the office to say hi and he would still do it, got caught by employees at least 3 times. He would have someone check his computer to see emails for him if he was traveling, and his inbox was about 70 porn site promos. When the company I worked for first got onto the net in the 90s, everyone was pretty green on how it worked and how slow it was. Apparently, one day the marketing manager tried to print a bunch of hardcore porno pics from a site and sent them to our shared printer. After waiting and rechecking for some time, he thought the images wouldn't print. However, they finally come over the printer just in time for the director to pick them up when he went to retrieve his own business documents. Shocked face. One of my co-workers was running a used car business from the medication room hospital psych unit. He had all sorts of customer information saved pretty blatantly. He was buying and reselling cars entirely over the phone and email. Occasionally he would fax stuff. Our boss at the time loved him, even though he was an absolute shit nurse in all aspects, so she never fired him. But I checked my personal email one time to grab a link to something I was going to use for work. Not a computer but a company-provided cell phone. I started a new position and was given a cell phone. For the first few months, I'd get a couple texts a day about meeting prostitutes. I thought it was spam at first and just ignored it. I finally went to my boss and learned that they gave me the director's phone number. Dude is still at the company and I still occasionally have hookers hitting me up. Always thought about just forwarding the messages to him, but I like my job. I was doing remote support for a sales team in the 1990s. One of the salesmen called and told me that his computer that he used for presentations was catching on fire. This was prior to laptops being widespread. It was a large box with a CRT monitor built into one side and a detachable keyboard. We called them lunchbox computers. The crazy part is that, after he unplugged it and the fire went out, he plugged it back in to see if it would still catch on fire. It would and did. Had a coworker in a call center watching porn while taking customer calls. They had screen recording on every time a call was on. So he would close it out as soon as the call beeped and open it back up as soon as the call ended. He didn't realize the screen recording lasted 30 seconds after the call ended to capture how they closed out the call. X200B. Absolute moron move. His defense was literally, "I wasn't taking a call, so who cares what I was doing?" Selling illegally imported turtles as a side business from a government computer. One day, the police showed up, seized his computer, and escorted him out of the building. We thought it was kiddie porn, but it turns out he was smuggling exotic turtles to sell as pets and using his work computer. Just having a side gig on your work computer is enough to get you fired, let alone an illegal business. Sort of telling on myself here, but me and another guy discovered BBS boards back in the 90s and would go on and chat with people, for hours at a time. Then one day the head of IT came up and ripped the network cable out of our department. Apparently it cost 25 cents a minute for us to be on there, each. We did this for like 6 months, 5 days a week. They just gotten the bill. Old job. A co-worker during staff meeting demonstrated that Pornhub was not blocked, only to freeze the computer up on the Pornhub website on a nice close-up. Another time, we were an agency for disabled adults. One of the guys we worked with was let alone at a computer. We came back to discover him on a tickle porn page. And he was giggling like nothing as he watched. Not too crazy, but I still laughed thinking about it. In mid-00s, I watched someone log into their computer that was already hooked up to the projector for about 20 people in a small room. They nailed their username, misclicked and didn't select the password prompt, and overwrote their username with their password for all to see. The password in question: "I love fries." While working for the GVT doing submarine maintenance, a woman at the tool crib downloaded a bunch of porn pics onto the computer. She had a meeting with security where they printed out every picture with the date and time and asked her one by one if she downloaded them. She was pissed that she wasn't allowed to keep the pictures. Her nickname was Leather Tits. I had a colleague tell a client that they don't need to shut down a software before modifying installation files, and it failed so spectacularly that it blue screened the client's computer. So, I guess the craziest thing I've seen is an IT professional believing another IT professional when they said it's okay to do the one thing it's never okay to do. When I worked at Northrop Grumman, this guy in the office had a desktop background that was a close-up image of dozens of women's labia. He called it "Cave with Bats." He also tried to show me some video of a woman sucking off a horse. When I left the company 2 years later, he still had a job. And he wasn't the most fucked up person I met there by far. Worked in a call center back in 2003. Because I did all the online support, I often had to help reps who may need to know a person's online email or chat history. The number of reps on phone calls with customers while watching porn was insane. I'd walk around from desk to desk a lot and constantly see people trying to hide their porn browser windows. Not directly, but at a place I worked many years ago I learned that someone viewed unacceptable porn. Guess, I won't spell it out, at work, and was not only fired but the police called. Another person was fired for accessing Stormfront website and other neo-Nazi white nationalist race hate sites. Not sure if this counts, but my coworkers on a job in the past always looked weird at me for gaming on the office PCs during office hours, mostly as everything like that was supposed to be blocked. I'd call no one in the office ever just got past the protection on said PCs as said job was tech related and it was rather easy to pull off. I had a coworker with a huge porn collection on his computer. His screensaver cycled through the collection. One day the owner of the company was in our department while the guy's screensaver was running. The owner was not amused. The guy didn't get fired, but eventually was transferred to another department that didn't need computers. It's not as extreme as some of the things here. But in 2011 I worked for a place they banned Spotify because it slowed down the network. Some people figured out that Netflix was not restricted. People would listen to movies all day instead of listening to Spotify. Never had a problem with the network speed. I had a boss who destroyed his laptop by hitting it with his phone when a competing company launched their app before the one I was working at. I didn't actually see it happen. He did this at his home, but he walked in the next day and noted that he couldn't work because he didn't have a computer anymore. My former boss had his server packed with pirated movies, games, porn and whatever. He shared the address with everyone, and everybody knew about it. People just enjoyed a safe and easy place to get their wares. I was there for 2 years, and the server was there the whole time being updated daily. A woman I met online worked for a major social media organization, which I learned because she sent me a video of her sitting on top of her desk masturbating with the company logo right behind her. Hope nobody had to use the keyboard after her. That counts as on a work computer, right? An old supervisor of mine screenshotted a woman doing squats in the gym and proceeded to send via email. Unfortunately, he sent it to the manager of the gym, who was actually on holiday, and thus this email was forwarded over to the regional manager. He wasn't with us very long after that. I had to fire an employee for very good cause. The guy was a sleazebag. After he left, the HR director came in and said, "Let's look at his browser history." His most visited site was, I thought it might have been a cat fancier website, but no, it was not. Somehow, my cat is able to find and press all of the random short keys on my laptop. I don't even know what they are as they flash on the screen. She has downloaded an extension for Chrome that I had never heard of before. She's a good kitty, but she can quickly mess up a laptop. Mining crypto on old work computers years back was a classic IT department hobby. No one has any fucking idea what's going on in there, and no one will notice that spike in power and HVAC usage. Hey boss, we need a bigger server. Give us money. And it gets rubber stamped. Back when I worked in radio, I was given a blog to run where I literally just shared an Instagram photo of a hot guy every day. My bosses and coworkers always happened to walk into my office right when I had very scandalous photos of very sexy men pulled up on my screen. Someone installed cameras in the women's washrooms and saved the videos onto a work computer. They were of course discovered. Police confiscated all their electronics at work and home. They discovered home videos of his stepchildren. Very quickly fired and divorced.